Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Amanda and Derek again with the No Cookies for You podcast. Thanks again for joining us. I think this is our fifth or sixth episode, Amanda.
Yeah. I mean, today's a big day. We're going to talk about data maps. Super exciting stuff. Or not data maps, but um, data lifecycle. So we talked about data maps last week or the week before. All right. We have an episode for you.
Awesome.
Do, 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 do. Uh, that's like my little intro, little impersonation of what I think my intro or the intro is to the show. Anyhow, I digress. So, Derek, first things first, what cookies do you have?
So I have a kind breakfast cereal bar. Um, so
Strong.
unfortunately, again, I don't have a cookie that's on me. Still excited to eat it though. What about yourself, Amanda?
Okay, so Crumble now sells these mini cookies. And so now I get a box of 3 cookies. It says that this little Butterfinger peanut butter cookie, which that's what I'm going to eat today. It's like 300 calories. There's no way. That's not possible that it's 300 calories. It's practically air. So, but I'm having the Crumbles Butterfinger peanut butter cookie. Give that a whirl. I'm going to save the other 2 for, I don't know, maybe this evening, realistically. But yeah, anyhow,
Is Crumbles like a well-known brand?
it's big on the West Coast, but it did start in Utah. I told you before, Utah loves their sugar, and there's all kinds of cookie shops. Crumble has actually expanded. So you see Crumble like in California, where I used to live. That's where I was first exposed to it. And then when I went to pick up the Crumble cookies today, I saw a little sign that says, like established in Logan, Utah. Um, and Logan, Utah is like an hour north of me. So it was founded in basically the sticks. It's not really the sticks. I shouldn't say that about people from Logan, but it's not a big bustling city by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah, I'm super excited about this. I love Butterfinger. I love peanut butter, chocolate. I don't know, but this is going to be a winner, I can tell.
Awesome. So yeah, I know we're talking about data life cycles today, and kind of what does that mean and approaches to understanding the life cycle. And we try and think about it from a privacy perspective. Um, Security is also heavily involved as well. Just kind of like thinking out loud, Amanda, when I think about the life cycle, the creation, generation, or collection of data storage, management, processing, usage, sharing, analysis, the interpretation of it, data archival, data destruction, just kind of understanding the kind of lifetime of it, right? Like a human being or something, right? I know you sent over some stuff as well, but what are your thoughts? You think I'm kind of hitting all the stages there? Or?
I think all the stages make sense. And before we recorded this episode, I'm like, I don't know if I have anything to add to data lifecycle. But it's data is so core to everything that privacy does, and all the data fits somewhere in the life cycle. Hopefully it's not archiving forever. There's some sort of destruction path, but it is so core to this privacy arena. But I think this is an area of privacy that so closely overlaps with security because we have the same interests. Security is very concerned about data and if it's being protected or secured or transmitted in a secured way. So I think this is an interesting topic, especially to illustrate the intersection between so many different groups.
Yeah, I agree. Thought popped in my head of from privacy side, we definitely care about the protection of it and stuff. But I almost feel like we care more about making sure we're like using the most
Right.
limited data minimization,
Right.
where we're kind of like the overlords of like capture the least amount.
Acceptable uses and purpose limitation. And so I think privacy governs how we use data, but security governs how we encrypt it. And so it's a very interesting space. And then you talk about data governance and ethics, and how are we ensuring ethical use, and how does the ethics team get involved in this? And if you have a really robust organization, you may have a data governance team where there's a whole committee that discusses these very topics, in which case you've probably already heard this and this is not interesting to you. So you may just want to stop listening at this point.
There's something else that like popped in my head too for like, us on the privacy side is like, we're making sure that like, are you asking permission? It's almost like having a kid when they go ask somebody for something, like make sure you say please,
Right.
in a ways. Just
or at least
popped
telling people like that this is what we're doing, and if you want to do business with us, we're going to collect your first and last name and other details to create an account for you, right? So if you don't want to give that information, you just don't do business with us. Okay, so let's talk about data creation capture. How is data, like how the data is generated? So when I think of, notice at point of collection, putting in the privacy policy, that's what we're talking about. When we're first capturing the consumer's data is kind of like the first step in the life cycle to me. Like, do you feel differently? Am I on the right track?
No, I think we're on the right track, right? I think it's stuff like, data entry, a web form, right, on your website, or, if you're doing a survey in the mall or something, when somebody goes up to you and hey, fill this information out. Or even if like you're purchasing data as well, just kind of understanding all of the mediums that are used to get that information. So I think it aligns well.
Or if you would you consider data collection like cookies on a website? So the cookie is dropping on your browser and collecting information about you, for targeted advertising purposes. I mean, how does that fit in with the collection phase?
At this exact moment in time at 6:56 p.m., I mean, I think it's collection, right? Like
Yeah.
you're like creating the data out of thin air in a way, especially if it's like a brand new user, right? It's like zeros and ones somewhere that kind of represents some kind of data, right? Whether it's like not considered personal information or not, like it's
Right.
data being generated from the ether or whatever you want to call it.
Right. And you're capturing people's preferences, and, IP address is personal information. So it depends, right? Of course, if cookies, cookies, um, is considered, it depends on what they're collecting and deriving from it. Storage and processing, I think, aren't necessarily in that order. It could be process data collection and then it's collected on a form and sent somewhere before it hits the storage phase. And so I think those to me are a little interchangeable, where creation, capture, collection, that's pretty solid of where it belongs in the life cycle. I think storage and processing are two that really can vary in order.
Yeah, I totally agree. That very synonymous with each other. I think about like a person taking the survey, like the physical piece of paper, and like walking to the to the filing cabinet and
Right.
putting it there for storage. So I think they're very intertwined with each other.
So how data analysis, sharing, those phases, like what are some things that when you are in those phases, things that you should probably consider from a privacy perspective? If you're analyzing data, sharing data, accessing data, what are some things that we should be thinking about?
I think the first thing that came to my head was, do I have permission, right, to share or even like sell the data, right? Yeah, that's the first thing that popped in my head. And then the second thing is like, if you're sharing it, again, like who you're sharing it with, but what's the medium by how you're sharing it? Like, are you putting it on a billboard and, in the
Right.
285 here in Atlanta so that one person can see it? Or do you have some kind of security or encryption protocols, like when you're, when you're sharing it, or, it's with a supplier, a data processing agreement, contract, all that stuff.
I love your old school analogies in this episode. You're really like bringing your A game with like the person filling out the survey and then walking it over to the file cabinet and then personal information on a billboard. Yeah, you're really bringing your A game with the examples.
Thank you. I've been trying to like think of analogies more, because like, this is off topic, man. Sometimes I'll get like way too technical, and I'm just like, and I'll realize I'm like, this person has no idea what I'm talking about, and that's like on me. So I've been trying very hard to come up with analogies. I was trying to think of one for like a full life cycle. I was maybe a campfire. You collect wood, you structure it, you burn it. But then I was like, man, if you're keeping the data for a long time, but you're burning it, like it kind of maybe that
Or
will.
is the ashes? Could the ashes fit in there and be another phase of it? We'll have to work on our analogies to. Now you've inspired me, because I liked the examples of something that not super seasoned privacy people can relate to. So I think that's awesome. Things so my favorite stage stages is the archiving and data retention, as well as the destruction, like the end of the life cycle. And that's where privacy cares about who you're sharing the data with. What are they doing with that data? All of those things. But I think what's one of the most important things is to have a retention and destruction procedure. And I think this is where a lot of companies struggle, and a lot of companies end up getting in trouble because they have a breach. And they probably, had they had good destruction policies in place, or had their vendors had good destruction policies in place, the customer's personal information may not have been leaked. So I think, but I also think that's probably the hardest to enforce. What have you seen be successful in enforcement of retention and destruction policies, or what do you think could be a successful way to go about it?
That is a great question. I think retention schedules and knowing what the retention schedules are. Like because if you don't know, you don't know, you just assume.
Right.
So I think understanding the retention schedule, types of information, how long you can keep it, all the metadata about it and stuff. And then when you also need to know, hey, I don't need this data anymore. Like now, is it following the retention schedule?
Right.
And like, what are we doing now that we don't need it anymore? And it's kind of like hit its bin date.
Right. This customer's been disconnected for 50 years. We don't need this anymore. They're probably deceased. So yeah, like how do you keep an organization from hanging on to data forever? That's really hard because the application teams, the technical teams, sometimes don't even know what, like, data minimization. What's that?
I just think of human beings. Like we keep stuff for 20, 30 years from our childhood. And we may look in an old box in the attic and be like, oh, dude,
You
I
haven't seen this in a while.
still have this. Like, so it's interesting. And then I guess kind of circle back a little bit, like once that about the data, like how, and then how is it being handled? Is it truly being destroyed or archived? And like, how is it being archived? And how is it being destroyed? Because I just read something the other day. It was like these people were taking old hard drives and doing like computer forensics on it, and they were like finding like ATM transactions on there,
Whoa.
like getting people's like banking information and personal information. Um, so yeah, it's kind of an interesting read on it. So I mean, throw it in the fire or an incinerator.
Right.
Something like
Truly, because I am personally scared about, I have a computer that doesn't work that well. Um, and I'm afraid to sell it on the black market or like put it on the Craigslist or something and have someone buy it for $100 and then get all of my data if I don't erase it and reset it properly. Yeah, that's scary. Hacker's gonna hack.
Yeah, I was watching Mr. Robot a couple weeks ago, and he was like taking his stuff and putting it in the microwave, which I thought was kind of cool.
uh, okay, so last topic. How do you think AI is changing the way we look at data, handle data, and the data minimization rules that privacy has? Like, how is AI just blowing this out of the water? So important to establish a strong AI governance and rules about using AI. So privacy is really concerned with sensitive personal information, and data minimization for that. Your company may have other retention, policies, but I really think that a company needs to have a strong guardrails for AI so they're not adding data that is on a retention schedule or something like that, or they create synthetic data based on the actual data to kind of not fall into any risks of or not following data retention and data minimization standards. So synthetic data is probably a pretty good option for AI models, but I think about it in like, because you can't get data out of a model very easily. And I think that's needs to be really thought through when companies are developing their AI strategy and AI governance process.
I agree. You and I talked about grounding before, where it's like, hey, you can give a model a set of information to kind of use for itself. But once you make a call or you generate a prediction from it, like, where is it going after it makes the prediction? Which I think you're kind of alluding to. Just something I was been thinking about the last couple of weeks is like, and I'll talk about myself for a second. It's like, yeah, like I know how to do that stuff, like build a prompt and around it to information, but when it comes to like the machine learning algorithm itself, like that's something that I want to kind of dive into more.
Mm-hmm.
I understand, or just from my understanding, right, it's like breaking this stuff down into floating point values, right? But I want to know about the code that's breaking it down and like why it's breaking it down in that way. And I realize I'm going on a complete tangent, and maybe it's just in kind of a little bit of an unknown for me, but that's kind of what you're alluding to about like, well, what happens even, hey, we clean our data, but then what happens, to that data, that the model uses.
Yeah, this is an interesting time because AI is moving so fast and everyone wants to get on the AI train. They want to develop AI. I mean, heck, I developed some agents that help me do various tasks. So I don't blame organizations for wanting to be using AI, building AI, etc. But I think governance, just like data governance, is so important. And that doesn't mean having a committee that makes every single decision, but just giving guidance and at a high level, giving direction, I think is warranted, whether you're talking about data use and data governance or how it overlays with AI governance.
Well said, Amanda. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to tell you how wonderful this cookie is. I'm so glad it's a mini because I can, not feel bad about it. But it's fantastic. This Butterfinger peanut butter cookie, it's like a peanut butter base with Butterfinger crumbles on top. The reason I had to get cookies, by the way, is my husband. I had a box of Dunkaroos, and I'm like, I'm going to use this for the show. And he took him golfing. So, like, that's what happens when you live with another human, is that sometimes my Dunkaroos did not survive the weekend. So I had to go fetch cookies, but this is way better than Dunkaroos. How's your kind bar?
Yeah, it looks awesome. The kind bar is actually pretty fire, man. No, it's very good. I'm actually very pleased with it. It says it has almonds in it, but I can't taste the almonds at all.
It looked very chocolatey.
Yeah, and I don't eat a lot of chocolate, to be honest with you, but yeah, this is really good. I'm impressed. It's very kind of them to make a bar.
Nice. Pun totally intended. All right. Well, I don't believe that my cookie is 300 calories. I'm gonna like file a petition calling fake news or something on Crumble. But it's been a pleasure, Derek.
Yeah,
I'll
you
see you
too.
next week. Yeah, well, we'll talk next week. I think we'll have a special episode coming up here for our listeners. So stay tuned. Listen and let us know if you have any feedback. We don't have a website yet, or do we?
It's getting there. There's
All right.
a thought. There's the
Yeah.
thought.
I'm like, you are doing things so fast. I'm like, maybe we do have one. But I'll put our email address at the bottom of the screen, nocookiesforyou@gmail.com. Very professional. And with that, have a great day, everyone. Thank you for listening.
Yep. Thank you, everyone.